Hello, everybody. I'm Rafael,
And I'm Julio.
and today we have a special guest with us. Mercy, why don't you introduce yourself to our people?
Hi, everybody. My name is CLETO, and I'm a general contractor here in South Florida.
All right, Mercy. I understand your company doesn't just do general contracting, right? You guys do some designs as well, or engineering.
Yes, so the main niche or focus of the company is to develop, design, and build projects. So what this means is like when we take owner like a project or a client, we usually like guide them from the process of designing the project, getting the permits, and then doing the construction. So it's just something that we work as a team, and we work together to have them like from beginning to end. So it's like a turnkey kind of like design for the business.
So you provide the full package. You do the architectural
Yes.
designs, the engineering, or work with the engineers, and then you also do the general contracting portion as well. You build it as well.
Yes, so I'm a licensed general contractor, and right now I have my FE exam, so I'm working towards getting my PE license. But I have a background in actually I have a bachelor from New York State for architecture and construction management. So that's how my whole background like started. That I work towards like I have a design in kind of like perspective when I get to the project. So that's a good key to work with us is because usually when you work with contractors, they don't have like the design point of view for a project. So we also want to make sure the project is gets developed like in a secure way, but we also wanted to make it look like nice and fancy. So that's something that usually we work with the clients. Yes.
So I want to ask you because when we are invited to bids, how we get projects is the engineer invites us to the restoration. We do our bid, we present it, and then we get chosen or we get turned away, either one of the two. So since you provide the whole package, how do you get new jobs? Just word of mouth? Like you can walk me through the process of how do you start a new project? How do you even get recommended for a new project? And what kind of clients do you normally deal with?
Yes, so for us, it's a little bit different than what you guys usually do because you usually get the jobs directly from the engineers.
Hmm.
But for us, we work directly with the client. So it's like when we're working, usually we do like a lot of interior remodelings for condos or we do new construction. So we do the project by phases. Like the first phase is to develop the design, the project, and then after that phase is developed, we go towards like making the budget for the client and getting like the right materials, right subcontractors, and then we go into the permitting process and then construction. So usually instead of working directly with the engineer, we work directly with the clients. But there's some clients that they already come with their own plans and design, and then we just come and focus more on the part of the construction. So it depends the necessity of the client.
And how do the clients know to find you? Is just referrals from other clients? Like how do you make yourself known to prospective clients?
Yes, usually we have some advertising, like we have our social media and then word of mouth. We have getting a lot of clients through the word of mouth and people like who know Julio, who know me, who know you guys to the business, and they're looking usually to get a new contractor on their contacts and things like that.
Would you so you get a job. Your first step is to take a look at what the client. Let's say the client doesn't have a plans. They just this is what I want to do. How do you do it? Do you meet with the client, go over what designs they see, and then do you present some iterations? Can you do like a step by step process of your project?
Yes, so usually the first thing we get the call from the client, we go meet on site with the client. So we also want to get like the infield view of the project because sometimes clients will say, "Oh yes, I just need like something small," and then when you walk into the project, you tell them like you have to bring everything up to go. As
Mm.
soon as you get a permit for any project, doesn't really matter how old is the house, everything has to be brought to the latest building code. So usually we go to the client, we walk through, and then we'll tell them like what they need. We prepare a proposal for them for the design phase, and then based on the design phase, then we move into getting a budget. So during the process of getting a budget, we're talking to engineers. Usually we work with structural engineers, we work with mechanical MEP engineers, which is the ones that handles all the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and we handle all the architecture inside. So that's something that we have a team in house that we develop the CAD and all the design for the project. So once the owner has approved a preliminary design of how the place is gonna look like, then we already start working on getting like all the engineering, getting all the plans, calculations, and everything, so we can prepare a permit package to be submitted to the city. So in that process, we are developing a budget for the clients, because sometimes they wouldn't know how much it will cost, because once you walk in, you have to bring everything up to code. So it's mean sometimes they will just want to remodel the kitchen, but because they have remodeled the kitchen, they have to update the electrical panel, because the electrical panel it's not up to code. Or sometimes they're doing just they want to do some tiles, but they have to do like the soundproofing and things like that. So there are things that, because there are less consumers that they don't understand the code and things like that. So that's why they bring us in, so we can guide them through the right process of getting everything legalized and do the permits. And then once we get the budget, we start the permitting process, and then that's when the fun starts, right? Because then you start with the construction, and as soon as you start the demo, you're starting finding things that they were no part of the design. Because usually some people, they come, they buy those old condos, they just want to like remodel everything, have a open concept. Everybody wants to have an open concept these days. And then once we start removing drywall, we see the existing conditions behind the walls. We have find a lot of like structural problems. So and that's when we call you guys in, so you can go with your expertise and take care of that problem. Sometimes we find mold, like especially like when we do a lot of buildings, especially near the beach. We have found a lot of mold, and then that's something that we have to come and bring in a remediation company so they can take care of the mold and things like that. So
Oh, and you know that that being said, I have bumped into a lot of issues of people that come from other state and they want to invest here in South Florida, somewhere near the beach or a place for vacation, but at the same time they want to use it for rental at the same time, and they want to remodel this apartment. They come and they get a budget to do a new kitchen, to do bathrooms, and just remodel. But when they start putting the job in action, that they start taking the walls out, and then now they bump into this problem that is unforeseen structure, like you just say, columns and beams. And the problem with that is that because it's like opening a can of worms. Because remember that those columns and those beam, Rafi, they're not only for that apartment. They actually go through the building. Now you got to get a structural engineer involved, and sometimes those renovation have turned into big projects because no engineer want to sign off in one apartment knowing that those columns and those being connect to others. So that's a big issue that I've been seeing a lot with people that come with the mind that they did a great deal on an apartment, and when they get into construction, then they see the reality of this. So you bump into that in the past, right?
yes, so we have experience with those type of issues in the projects, and also like especially like condos like near the beach. That's something that you will find a lot. So if you're looking for buy a condo near the beach, like structural problems like exposed rebars, is something that we usually go across to. And then sometimes people, they think like they want to like open up the kitchen, for example, and then as soon as they open up the walls, they find a column or design. They find like structural beams. That's something that it's aligned with the whole building. So the design will have to get revised to address those, because usually we're not allowed to remove any structural elements while we do the construction.
So, with that being said, do you find it easier to do new construction projects where you don't have to worry about existing conditions? Or are there any special kind of hurdles that you have to go over in new construction projects that you normally don't have to deal with on in renovation or alteration?
Yes, so renovations, they're very more strict when it comes to that, because there's always a lot of changes, because probably you don't have access to the unit above or to the unit below, or changes because as soon as you remove the walls, you don't know the existing conditions of the building. So that's something that you have to address. And when we call inspections, like the inspectors make sure it's like it doesn't matter what you're doing, you have to make sure everything you're touching has to be of to the latest cut. But in new construction, you don't have that issue because new construction, it's like you don't have anything, you're renting everything up, right? So usually when it comes to doing the plans of new construction, we make more details because we want to make sure that every trade from like the shell guy, the framing guy, like structurals, MEP, everybody has the right measurements because like a different in the measurements, it can create a problem in the future. So that's why we want to do the plans. We want to make sure they're very detailed and very oriented because if anything's missing, they can just go. But in new construction, sometimes the client might want to change the finishes or might want to change like like the way that the layout. But usually because you're working on plans, it's something that you can take care of before you actually have people working on the
Get to
field.
yeah.
So that's why it's a little bit easier to work with and you have less changes because like everything's on paper and then you have the facility to work on paper and then see the problems before it happens.
Right.
While in renovations, you don't see the problem until you actually
So you
start
bump into it.
demolition or you start doing the actual
Yeah.
work. So that's why. And also when you do like, especially when you work in condos, it's like you have to have a specific time frame to work with, so it's very limited. And then you have like all these holidays that you have to stop working, and then that's it's more time. It takes more time out of your time to schedule and planning those projects and the new construction.
Yeah, because I mean, you're dealing not just with the city noise constraint. You're also dealing with, like you mentioned, condominiums sometimes observe specific holidays, sometimes religious holidays that aren't observed or aren't taken off in the rest of the country. We've had that happen too, where we've had to stop working on certain religious holidays. Even though we're open and most other people are open, that job site, for instance, had to be closed down. So we understand that there are different scheduling issues with open condominiums of that nature. We actually have a project right now we're doing where it's a hotel that's completely gutted out. Right? Do you sometimes get those kinds of projects where there's nobody living there, it's gutted out, you're basically looking at the bare concrete, the bare beams and columns, and like, this is what I want to do. The owner says, I want to remodel, I want to make it look like that.
Yes, we do a lot of those projects. Especially when they want to gutter everything out.
Mhm.
We actually the one very interested right now with an interior designer. When the interior designer gets involved, it's very detail oriented. So everything has to have a distance, everything has to have a measurement, and everything has to be like according to plans. But they're very fun projects because you can work every day. You don't have the time frame that you have to work from 8 to 5, and then you have the availability to work and like timelines usually can get less because you can have people working from Monday to Saturday, and then you get a lot of production out of those jobs.
Yeah,
But
you don't have that many obstacle when you have actually a occupied building or anything like that. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
very. I mean, I think that's ideal for any contractor that do interior, is to get just a gutter. Just do what you gotta do,
The
and you don't have no
skeleton of a
obstacle.
building.
Yeah, that's like the fun way to do it because you don't have all this obstacle like we said before. When people and you always get a fun guy in this project that he just can't stand the smell of you just getting there. So
or the noise. Like we have this a lot, especially when you having like the screws going through like the slab and things like that.
Oh
When you have
yeah.
to redo the framing, or you're removing the tile, that's very noisy because you have to have a cheaper hammer and you have to remove all the existing tile. And then the neighbor below or above the apartment are complaining about the noise, and then the association stop by, but you have a permit. As soon as you have a permit,
you're good.
you're good. You have a peace of mind. So that's why we always encourage the owners to have a permit for everything that we do, because if something happens, you have a leak or a neighbor is complaining about the noise, you have a permit. As soon as you have the permits, mean that you're legal to work there.
Yeah.
So
So even for something like removing and replacing tiles in the ground, which normally you can do in most places without a permit, but even for something like that, you recommend that the owners should get a permit,
yes, but
especially in a condominium.
yes, especially in condos. And this is why, because in condos, you have to have a soundproofing system before the flooring.
Oh, right.
Doesn't matter if you put tile, doesn't matter if you put laminated, you put like marble, whatever type of flooring you install, you have to make sure you have the soundproofing. And because of the building elements of the structural elements is different for each building. The association, they will request a specific soundproofing. So because you have to meet the decibel levels for that building, because it depends on the structure. Because, for example, a slab of 6 inches is not, it doesn't take the same sound of 6 inches. So it depends how
Depending
thick
on
it
the
says,
size or
how
the
thick as a
thickness.
slab is. You have to have a specific
And even
soundproofing.
sometimes you even have wood deck on these small buildings
Yes.
in Southeast. So that really takes a lot of sample. And I was gonna say it's funny because about people complaining. Remember, most of this building, most of this apartment in the beach, a lot of people come here to have fun.
Yes.
Miami Beach, especially, is a fun town. So people come to just party, stay up late, and then you over here at 8 o'clock in the morning drilling a hole.
Oh no.
I know apartment when his head is on the other apartment next to it, and the guy just had too much of a drink last night. So
Oh
it
yeah.
happens a lot because we done a lot of hotel renovation. We actually 25 or 30% of the hotel is still working, and I'm gonna say something. It's almost impossible. That's like every day you get complaint. You give them a special rate. The hotel give them a special rate, like let's say $50 a night. Very cheap to be on the beach because of what's going on, and they still complain. So that's a very big issue when it comes to working in the beach
Yeah.
area.
Well, we always get two different types of complaints because you have those, like you mentioned, hotels, people who are down there for a couple nights to party in the summer and be in Miami Beach. And then you have the condominium complaints where it's like the snowbirds, so people come down for months at a
Yeah.
time. I remember we were working in a building, we had a lady that was losing her mind, not because of the noise or the dust or the smell, but because of the blue window tint,
Oh my
the
god.
blue window film that
The
we
film.
place on the glass and the sliding glass doors to cover them, prevent them from getting dirty and dusty. And I'll be honest, I've been in some of those units that are tinted, and if you have the blinds open, like your whole apartment's blue now.
Yeah.
The lights is coming right through everything. She was losing her mind. She was like, "Oh, I'm claustrophobic. I have
Oh my
mental
god.
health issues. Like, you guys have to take this off," and we can't because it's a liability.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand why they don't make clear window film.
Because
Right?
you will forget. If you don't see it, you will forget that it's there. And then
Yeah,
you
it's
you
like
you
just
feel
leave it up
you
there.
leave a spot that you won't see, but the person
yes.
inside will see it.
So they
Well,
make it blue so it draws to
they
attention.
have a spray or roll on window
Yeah.
film.
We tried that
Yeah, and it
in
worked
one of
out
our
really
job.
well. And you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
take like a little spray gun, spray it on there, and
But
it
then
dries
again,
into like a window film. It's really nice, but it's like frosted,
it's like for us.
so
Yeah,
you can still see it.
yeah. But again, those things when they stay for a long time, because remember, most of our project they go for months.
Yes.
So this protection sometimes it doesn't hold the elements that they are exposed to for more than a certain time. And remember, they're exposed to the sun, they're exposed to the rain, they're exposed to the salt. So sometimes you lose the integrity pretty fast on this film, and they now they're not even. You can even see the color now. They got so much on them that it gets really dark inside the apartments. I seen it
Yeah.
get really bad. So, but that's something that needs to get done because at the end of the day, it's better to not see for a couple of months. They actually having to put a new window. Okay, your window damaged. So
Because even if the contractor breaks something and they pay for it, it's still a hassle as an owner. Have to go through people coming into your unit,
Mhm.
Yes.
replacing the areas, the
Yeah.
damaged areas. So
So we want to
even if
minimize.
it's not a monetary issue, you
Yeah.
still have like a hassle of this
Yeah.
is your privacy that's being
Mhm.
invaded because they have to get the work done in some way.
Yes, that's something that we actually have to be very careful when we work with interior remodeling, see if the owner is still living there, because you're walking into somebody's house, you're taking out their privacy, like the place when they relax and things like that. So in the dust is something that no people are very like nice to work with because it makes the place to be feel uncomfortable. So
Hmm.
when we work, we have to make sure everything's covered, everything is like um covered with tape, with plastic, because you don't want the owner, to be like to
So you
damage
you
it.
completely isolate the area that you are working from the rest of the
Yes,
house.
that's what we
Yeah,
try.
very
Always we
good.
try to do.
Yeah,
We try to do a dust wall
yeah.
to make sure only the place when we're working is exposed to all this dust. You're always gonna get a little, but
Yeah.
not that much if you don't. We don't have a dust wall and things like that.
Yeah, and it happens a lot in the concrete restoration. When you're doing this high rise in the concrete restoration and you're chasing rebar, we want to sometime that we have to go in 3, 4, even 5 feet into the apartments because the rebar
Mhm.
just continuing to the slab. So we have to actually build a dust wall, and we have bumped into apartments that they had only a couple of months that they had spent a fortune to remodel, and now now we have to gutter everything out and build a dust wall because
Especially the
construction the
tiles.
tiles
Yes.
and that's a big issue, especially when you have invested so much money because now it become it's the association to fix the problem, but it's then your problem to fix what was broken.
Yeah.
So it's
One thing that I've never understood is we've been in projects that have taken months just to get started, right? Between the bidding or between hiring the engineer to do the plans, the bidding, the permitting, like months and months and months,
yeah.
sometimes over a year
Yep.
between when you hire the engineer to when you actually start the project. And way before you start the project, you know more or less what's going to happen. And we always run into these units that we know we're going to have to take out the balcony tiles. We know we're doing the waterproofing, and there's always a couple people. Oh man, I just
Yeah,
remodeled.
we
I just put new tiles on my balcony 3 months ago, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, do they not have access to what the plans are? Because the condominiums are supposed to present that. Right? Don't they
Yes.
know what the scope of work? Why
no,
would you remodel if you have an upcoming concrete restoration
but
project
you
coming?
know what it is, Rafi, and I noticed this. Some of this renovation when they are going in the process, and remember, remove sometimes when they remove the tiles and they see these things, sometimes they hide it because most of the time you cannot see it when you have actually rebar going into be under your sliding glass and going in, and
Mhm.
you just have remodel your building. Your contractor must have seen something there, and that's the time when you stop. You bring the association and they say, "Listen, now remodel is what's going to happen." But most of them they don't want to do that because they know it's going to be a holdup.
Yeah,
So
they just
what
want
they
to do their
do,
work
they
and
just want
I'm
to do,
out.
and the guy tells them, "Don't worry, we put some non-concrete, everything was gonna be fine," and they put it up. But yeah, it's gonna be fine. But what about the restoration? And you
Mhm.
know that rebar was bad, so that's the point. That's the time for you to protect your investment and say, "Listen, I want to get this fixed now because if they do outside, it's gonna come in here, and then they're gonna go over what I already spent to do." So
Yeah, that's why when we find things, 'cause you know what, we have an eye. Not everybody knows, so that's another thing. But we always try to bring up to the attention of the owner and association. Tell them like this is what's happening. We remove the tile, we remove the drywall, and we find these structural elements that needs to be replaced. And also sometimes the owners, they've been in the building, or they just bought the unit, and they don't talk to the association. They don't tell them like what's going on, what's gonna come up like in the building, because like during those meetings when associations happen, they have access to that information. Usually
Yeah,
the
like a
manager
Zoom
will
or
tell them,
something.
yeah, they'll
Yeah.
tell them like, listen, there's a concrete restoration coming up, like everything that you need to tell us so we can address those items before everything happens, you know.
yeah.
And sometimes people they just don't pay attention
Yeah.
to what they
No,
need to.
remember, every time a contractor open their mouth to a client, all they see
Oh
is
yeah.
Dollar bills,
Yes.
money,
dollar bills just
ching ching.
flying out.
Yeah,
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 Yeah, they get
no.
yeah.
scared.
Yeah. And Mercy, I wanted to ask you, what have been a challenge to you that they actually have um wake you up and say, "Oh my God, how I'm gonna get at it?" Have you have any challenging in any of those jobs that you have bumped into?
Yes, like every job, for little or bigger there is, it has a different challenge. Whether it's the city to get the permits approved, whether it's like the existing conditions of the buildings, whether it's like the owner, because sometimes they cannot make up their mind on what they actually want to move forward with. Like yes, I'll have like different challenges. Depends, but I think every project sometimes it's the inspectors. You know, they're very sometimes you get like a
Yeah,
very thick
dealing with inspector
inspector.
is very
Yes,
critical.
Yes, so it depends. It depends on the project and things like that.
Yeah, that's one thing. Now that she mentioned the inspector, that's something that when you're doing interior renovation, you have to deal with different inspection. And,
Yes.
and besides, like if you compare with structure like concrete restoration, we actually deal directly with the
You're right.
engineer.
The
So
engineer does the
it's just
inspection,
engineer
not
does the
the
inspection.
city
So it,
inspector.
it's very it move in a very smooth way once you get to
Hmm.
know the engineer and you're gonna but when you dealing with the city, I mean, this guy is not only doing your inspection, but
Yeah, he's got like 20 other inspections out there. Yeah.
and
Yes.
the guy sometimes is not in a good mood, and because he didn't had a good day, that can reflect on your inspection. So interior, it has
Yes.
a lot. That's a big key for interior renovation. How do
Yes.
inspector
And
handle
And,
the
and the thing with us is like, for example, you guys deal with the inspector from the engineer, which is a private provider. But for us, we deal with the cities. Like
Hmm.
every city will have a different way of reading the building code, right? Every inspector will see different things, right? And we have to deal, for example, you will have like in a project for a regular interior remodeling, we will have fire inspector. We will have mechanical, electrical, plumbing. You will have building, structural sometimes. Sometimes you have fire alarms. So every different of these trades is a different subcontractor, it's a different inspector, it's a different plans, it's a different engineer. So you're not only working with one person or two people like in the project, you're working probably 10, 15 people. Depends on how big is the project, and that's what gets challenging because like as a general contractor, we have to make sure that there is a one way of communication. Like A is talking to B and is talking to C. So that's what we come in. So we know that is a direct communication between the client, the engineers, the subcontractors, and the inspectors from the city. Because we have to make sure we can talk to all each other in the same language. Because sometimes, like when it comes to the inspections, like the inspector will tell you from one city that you have to bring, for example, you have to have a different type of breakers, for example, a different type of wiring for the electrical panel. But then you go to the other city, you're doing the same scope of work, it's a different story.
different
So,
goal, yeah.
sometimes you have to be open to changes, to make sure you can work with everybody and make sure you deliver what you need to, because otherwise you'll be stuck with that inspection for a while. And a good thing about having a design build contractor is because usually the way it works, you want to change something in the construction, you have to do a revision, get that revision approved by the city, and then call the inspection.
Mm.
But when you are working with a design build, usually we have a talk to the engineer to make sure we're meeting everything up to call and it's meeting the new design for the client. And while you're doing all of that, you submit to the city, you already have the subcontractor working on the plans, right? And then you're not wasting the time of waiting it approved and then come back and doing the work and all of that. So that's one of the keys of working with a design build contractor, because you save so much in time because you're already looking ahead of what you're expecting to do on the project.
Do the city inspectors ever conflict with each other? Like, say, Inspector A says, "I need you to move this element here," and then, but that brings into conflict something that Inspector B wants. Does that ever happen to you?
Yes, it happens a lot, especially when you're doing the like MEP and fire. It's always a conflict because you have to meet like certain standards. For example, if you're doing a fire sprinkle, you cannot have a fire sprinkle head within 3 feet of AC grill, right? Because in case there is a fire, it will not work because they will think like the AC is working, and they will not happen during the fight because maybe there is a structural elements there, and then you have to think about it, like you have to be creative, like how can I move this head from one spot to another without changing the design, without having the client upset, and also make sure everything's up to code and you can pass inspection. So yes, it happens a lot.
Interior design sounds like there's a lot of moving parts there. I'm not. I don't think I'm cut out for that one. I'm happy to go to my job, cut out some concrete, put it
Yeah.
back, and then
It's too much to put together.
yeah, it's a lot to put
Yeah,
together.
yeah. And not only that, most of the time when you're doing or redesign or apartment, whatever, usually people always change their mind at the
Oh
last
yeah.
moment. Oh, the wife come home, but no, but you don't think, yeah, Carlo, but no, but yeah. And then the men always end up doing with the wife. So, So that's
So,
that's another challenging, especially you being a female contractor. I think that works somewhat in on the
on your favorite.
on the wife favor, but on the against the husband.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
especially I want to actually. I'm glad that you mentioned that because I don't see that many females contractors in South Florida. Like
No.
I don't think I actually have met any female contractor in the field,
oh
and I encourage women to start doing this business because it's very fun. It's
I know there's some out there because there were maybe a handful when I did my exam. There were like at least another
yeah,
two
I think there's a
females in the same
now. I think
class.
now in these last years, a lot of females are getting more into design or the architectural field, and then once they're architect, that they feel, oh, but being a contractor that can help me in my business, or I can do something different. And there's a lot that are turning into general contractor from
Yeah.
architects. So it's happening. So Mercy, it was great having you with us. And Rafael, you have any other question for Mercy?
I think we've covered
Yeah,
what we
and
need to
Mercy,
cover.
would you like to tell the audience about you, or how can they contact you, and anything you want to say? And we want to thank you for giving the opportunity to have this podcast.
Thank you for having me here. This is actually my first podcast, so
Oh
I
wow.
was a little bit nervous, but it was really fun. Thank you. You guys made it like a very nice conversation to talk to. Yes, and we have our website, which is conargroup.com. Then you can go in there and see all the information for the company. We also have a Instagram account, and then you can find me on LinkedIn. And yeah, that's all the social media we have, and then you can find us there.
Oh, thank you everybody, and it was a good time. See you on the next podcast.